Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the ADP Partnership Membership Appreciation Program. As a membership-driven organization, you're the heartbeat of the ADP, and we're excited that you all have decided to join us today. Our keynote speaker today is Congressman Stephen Palazzo. Congressman, we're excited to hear from you. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. I know your schedule is difficult, particularly during these times, and again, we're grateful that you joined us today. And we'd like to extend a special thanks to our sponsors today, Hattiesburg Coca-Cola and Cooperative Energy. Thank you for helping us put the program on, and we always appreciate your support. We'd also like to recognize any local, state, and federal elected officials that have joined us today and their staff. Thanks so much for your leadership, your commitment, and the extra effort that you're putting forth to help us in the support of the ADP, particularly during these unprecedented times. Again, thank you all for your commitment. Before we get started in the program today, we'll ask Mike Dixon, President of the Pine Belt Foundation, to offer the invocation for us. Mike?
Thanks, Hoppy. Let's pray. Gracious God, we gather today acknowledging that every good gift comes from your hand and that life itself is an act of your grace. God, we confess that we are often guilty of making a mess of your world and ask that you forgive us for each of our shortcomings individually as we offer the same forgiveness to those who we feel come up short with us. God, in this chaotic time, we ask for your wisdom for the leaders of our country, state, and city. We ask for your courage to love as we have been loved. Help us to choose, Lord, your compassion over conspiracy. Help us to choose people over politics. Help us to choose your love that sacrifices over our own selfishness. Bless us as we seek to bless one another. And God, it is in your holy name that we pray. Amen.
Good morning. I'm Alan Anderson. I'm your ADP Chamber Division Chair, and I want to announce our newest members. We have 11 this month, which is great. AGJ Systems and Networks Incorporated, D1 Hattiesburg, DBAT Hattiesburg, Delta Industries Incorporated, Edward Jones, Courtney Payton, Elite Concierge Services, Mississippi Raiders Football, Pittman Environmental Services, LLC, School Status, Simply Chic by Fetish, Southern States Soccer. To find out more about our new members, go to the ADP.com and you can find their member listing, and please follow them on social media and their websites, please. Before moving forward, we have a few announcements. Pine Belt Young Professionals Blue Plate Luncheon will be Thursday, July 23rd, 11 a.m. How to Stay Motivated by the speaker that day will be Dr. Joe Paul, and he can definitely keep you motivated. Zoom video conference for that meeting. And again, visit the adp.com/calendar to register. Accelerate, the next Accelerate will be Friday, August 7th, 2020. Speaker will be Jay Hobson, Southern Miss football coach. That'll be sponsored by Pearl River Valley Electric Power Company and the First National Banking Association. Stay tuned for further details on that. Rise Up Professional Development Series. The next one will be August 25th, 2020 at 11:30 a.m. And that will be at the Trent Lott Center, the basics of branding for your business. Visit the adp.com/calendar to purchase tickets for that. And the last one, next to my heart, the Corporate Golf Challenge, Thursday, September 17, 2020, at a flight going out at 8 a.m. and again at 1 p.m. That'll be at the Timberton Golf Club. Sponsorships and teams are still available now at the adp.com. Thank you.
Hey guys, good morning. I'm Todd Jackson, Executive Vice President here at the ADP. I'd like to take just a second to make you aware of a couple of publications that we have coming out. First, you guys may have just received in the mail your Hattiesburg ADP membership directory. This is an annual publication that we put out. And it highlights, of course, a lot of good things going on in the area, as well as all of our members and their contact information. This publication makes a great thing to put in the lobby of your business, and of course highlights a lot of our members. So if you guys have not received that, or if you would like additional copies for any of your businesses, please reach out to our team, and we would love to get these in your hands quickly. Next thing I have is I would like to let everyone know that our quarterly publication, The Navigator, will be going all digital. So you will be receiving a copy of The Navigator in your inbox each quarter, highlighting all of the good things going on here in Hattiesburg, and of course keeping you up to date with all of the events that we have coming up. You can also visit our website at the ADP and go to the publications section and see all of these and historical publications at any time you would like. We're excited that you are here with us today. I'll turn it over to our president, my friend Chad Newell, to introduce our friend Congressman Stephen Palazzo.
Thank you, Todd, and thanks to all of our members joining us today on Zoom. I'm in my 11th year here at the ADP, and boy, the previous 10 years we've been able to get together at Southern Oaks for membership appreciation. Obviously, that was not possible today, so I'm very grateful for your participation on Zoom. I know that many of you are also, there are a large number of you who are in corporate boardrooms right now. I'm sure you're social distancing, but there are a lot of folks participating around the community and around the state, so we're elated. You know, during this COVID-19 period, we are spending an inordinate amount of time really focusing on helping small businesses, local businesses. We want you to grow and prosper. We always want you to grow and prosper, but during these difficult times, we're doubling down on our effort to assist you, and we are relentlessly promoting your businesses. We're working with our elected officials on programs that can aid you during this time. And so just know that your Regional Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Agency is doing everything that we plausibly can to assist you. And boy, we look forward to those post-pandemic days when the clouds clear and we can continue to grow this great region here in the Pine Belt. I also do want to thank our sponsors, Cooperative Energy and Hattiesburg Coca-Cola, not only for their financial resources for making the program available today, but also Jeff Bowman, CEO of Cooperative Energy, is on our executive committee. So these folks are really involved personally in our organization. Chris Dunkley with Hattiesburg Coca-Cola is on our board of directors. So thanks to Jeff, Chris, and the entire teams at Cooperative Energy and Hattiesburg Coca-Cola. Before I introduce Congressman Palazzo, I do want to let the audience know that we do have a Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. So as the congressman makes remarks, if there are things that those remarks trigger that, hey, I would like to ask the congressman a question or two, please log those in to the Q&A section, and at the end of the congressman's presentation, we'll take as many of those questions as we can. So again, Congressman Palazzo, we're elated to have you, sir. It's just our honor for you to join us today. Let me introduce the congressman to the group. Most of you know Stephen because he gets around the district quite a bit, and so you really needs no introduction. But I want to go through this because it's an impressive background, and he brings a lot to the table for us here in South Mississippi. Congressman Palazzo is proud to serve the people of South Mississippi's 4th Congressional District, which includes Mississippi's Gulf Coast and Pine Belt regions. As a U.S. Marine Corps veteran, current member of the Mississippi National Guard, and former member of the Mississippi House of Representatives, Congressman Palazzo has a record of service that began long before he was first sworn into office on January 5th, 2011. Stephen currently serves on the House Appropriations Committee, which, by the way, is extremely important for our state and our community. And he sits on 2 subcommittees, the Commerce Justice Science Subcommittee and the Homeland Security Subcommittee. His committee is responsible for allocating every dollar of federal discretionary spending. That's a very important position that he has there on approach. Since his first term, Stephen has served on the Majority Whip team. He has also spent 5 times as the chairman of the Space Subcommittee, overseeing the country's space program and ensuring America's continued access to space. Before being selected for the Appropriations Committee, Congressman Palazzo also sat on the House Armed Services and Homeland Security Committees. His military experience also provided the opportunity for Stephen to lead the House National Guard Caucus. And with us having Camp Shelby, the largest state-owned National Guard training facility in America right here in the Burg, we are elated that the Congressman not only serves on the House National Guard Caucus, but he is actually chairman of that caucus. In 2016, he also took the helm of the House Aerospace Caucus. In these roles, he has been a consistent advocate for a strong national defense, a leader on veterans issues, and a champion for bringing fiscal common sense back to Washington by supporting balanced budgets and pro-growth policies. Congressman Palazzo believes in smart federal investment while cutting the true drivers of our national debt, mandatory spending. Stephen's prior life includes experience working on oil rigs, serving on active duty overseas, and starting and owning his own small business. He also served in the Mississippi House from 2006 to 2010. Stephen's a Gulf Coast native and the proud father of 3 children, Barrett, Aubrey, and Bennett. Before I turn it over to the Congressman, I want to say to our membership that Congressman Palazzo really goes to bat for us on a daily basis, and specifically on economic development issues. He has helped us over and over, which is helping create jobs and prosperity here in Greater Hattiesburg. Couple of recent examples, just in the last a couple of years, the Congressman helped us secure a $1.7 million Economic Development Administration grant that is going to help with the refurbishment and repaving of Lamar Boulevard, connecting to the new $23 million Regions Loan Ops Center that will employ 420 people. I distinctly remember the Congressman not only writing letters of support, but he used the old-fashioned pick up the phone and let me call the regional administrator in Atlanta approach too. So he's always willing to go to bat for us. He has been instrumental in a DOT grant that is providing much needed access over the railroad tracks in downtown Hattiesburg. That's a $5.4 million grant. And I mentioned his service in the military and being over the National Guard Caucus. He's a staunch advocate for Camp Shelby. We're currently working together. He's trying to get $16 million to expand the Mates facility. And for that is the maintenance facility for the M1 and Bradley tanks. And boy, providing those world-class mechanics with better operations there and better ability to maneuver through, that's going to help retain those jobs and actually probably provide opportunities for other units to do maintenance there. So Congressman, thanks for your leadership and your service. And without further ado, sir, I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Chad. Thank you for that kind introduction. I appreciate Hoppy, the chairman of the board, Todd Jackson, ADP members. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your membership appreciation. It means a lot to me. I do regret that we're not able to enjoy maybe some good fried chicken or some catfish today, but there'll be other opportunities to get up there when we can do a little less social distancing, a little more fellowshipping. But I do appreciate the opportunity to be here. I know when we first started talking about doing this, that the logistics were going to be a lot different. Instead of being physically there, we're all coming in virtually. But I got to tell you, 2020 has been a crazy year. Tornadoes, COVID-19, civil unrest. It's a presidential election year. That's adding to, I believe, a lot of the craziness. But before I move on, I would just like to take a moment to thank my staff. I believe y'all know that many of you know the staff I have in Hattiesburg, Anita Bourne, Brenna Holder, and of course, Stephen Moore. And then I have staff throughout the district. During the past 120 days, we never stopped working. We just took our laptops and took our cell phones and went home and continued to work. As you know, there were tens of thousands of Americans stranded abroad as nations were shutting down their borders. We worked really hard to repatriate many Mississippians back to our nation when people just didn't know what was going on. It was total chaos. The unemployment questions, the unemployment funds, stimulus checks. I believe, my staff has, firsthand helped thousands of South Mississippians over the course of the last 120 days. And I just want to thank them. I couldn't do my job without them. And, this is kind of like where the rubber meets the road. That's the most tangible aspect of my job, is when you know that you're helping someone in your community, because when they turn to us, they have exhausted every other possible approach to having their problem solved. We're usually the last resort. They come to us in desperation. And I can't be more proud of my staff. So if there's such a thing as a virtual applause, I just want to, if everybody would just give my staff an applause. They are tremendous. And I just look forward to getting them all in front of y'all in the future. 2020, again, it's been a crazy year. COVID-19, multiple tornadoes, civil unrest. The folks, we will not only survive 2020, we will thrive. Just take a moment and look back, if we can, pre-COVID-19. We had the hottest economy in the world, probably in the history of America. We had record low unemployment. We had record job creation. We had record stock market, retirement accounts were fat and happy. Many of these things were all done because of smart, conservative principles were put into play. I'd like to think the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 is really what ignited our economy. We saw American industries bringing back operations and profits from abroad, and we were growing jobs, not just in the Pine Belt, not just in Mississippi, but throughout the nation. And we were focused on smart deregulation, right? I mean, because, some regulation is good to protect the environment, to protect, our communities. But there's a lot of regulations that were just stifling job creation and not really adding to the quality of life of Americans. And I want to say, taking all these things and together and negotiating better and fairer trade deals, we were on the process of making America stronger and more prosperous than she ever has been. And we're going to get back to those. So, like, if you look at COVID-19, I guess there's some, if really, I hate to say this, but I try to look at the positive things in the worst of times. We wouldn't have made it through Katrina. We wouldn't have made it through the oil spill. We wouldn't have made it through the Bonnie Carey opening. Just the things that we cannot control, natural and man-made. But you always got to look to the positive. You got to stay positive. And so if there's a positive that's going to come out of COVID-19, I think it should be the lessons that we've learned. This totally caught us unprepared. It caught the Department of State, our military, our medical establishments. It caught us totally unprepared. And I think, obviously I don't wish that like this will happen in the future, but I think we can learn from the mistakes that we may have made. These were unprecedented times and unprecedented actions have been taken. And I don't think there should be any armchair quarterbacks trying to look back and saying, well, you should have done this, you should have done that, because no one would have known. But the one thing we have to learn from is we cannot become wholly dependent upon foreign nations for our pharmacies, for our antibiotics, for the supplies and goods that we need on a daily basis. And we definitely should not be dependent upon countries that are pretty much our military adversaries. It might not be public, but why is certain countries controlling all of the creation? We don't even make our own antibiotics here. And so what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from Mississippians and from a lot of Americans is that we're going to begin bringing those supply chains back to America. We're going to locate those supply chains within our friends and our allies and get them away from our near peer adversaries and those who compete against us. And I think we're going to have a huge opportunity when we do that to create jobs in Mississippi. And I think the Pine Belt is positioned to really jump on some of these things, because there's going to be new manufacturing facilities. There's going to be construction. There's going to be job creation. There's going to be production. And I'm sure Chad and Todd is all over this, just looking for opportunities. I'm sure you already have your lines in the water and baited up. And I'm here, and my team's here to help any way possible to make that a reality. You know, but we got to, for this to be successful, we got to keep the taxes low. We can't overregulate our industries because it'll just become a drag on our economy. And just yesterday, the president was talking about his deregulation efforts and how that's going to help low income, middle income, high income. It's going to help all Americans, removing unnecessary regulations from the books. Now, that's the good side. We're going to learn from our lessons. We're going to bring back supply chains to America, and we're going to create jobs, and we're not going to be dependent on countries that we may actually be engaged in other ways later on. We cannot trust them. They're not our friends. And we've seen from their actions that they really only care about themselves. Now, the ugly side, other than the unnecessary deaths that have taken place and that will probably continue to happen over the next 3 to 6 months and maybe a little longer, has been the civil unrest and the mob rule that we've seen throughout this country. It's mainly in urban areas. It's mainly in more liberal areas. Fortunately, we have not seen that kind of un-American and despicable behavior here in Mississippi. It's just because we got good people here. And that's not, we may disagree, but we're not going to go out and burn public and private property. And we're definitely not going to stand idly by and let others do that, looting and destroying. It's just absolutely wrong. And, because we're a nation of law and order. We're a nation of rules. It's what separates civilizations from total chaos. And, instead of calling out the criminals and the thugs and the arsonists, there was all of a sudden this narrative, this mainstream media narrative, to call for the defunding of police departments. And folks, that is crazy. That's crazy talk. I mean, and I think it has something to do with the 2020, the COVID-19 mental health issues for some people. What we should be providing our police officers with more resources. And if we would have provided our police officers with more resources, the things that happened in Minnesota may not have ever happened. Most police officers, the chiefs and sheriffs that I've talked to, they would love some common sense reforms. They would love more money for training and improving their policing and their tactics. But to basically criminalize the police departments and call for defunding the police department, when we've seen an increase in drug activity, smuggling, dealing, gang activity, wickedness, and unlawful behavior increasing in America, we need to be stepping forward and defending our police departments, the men and women in blue who are basically the only thing between civilization and chaos and good from evil. I want to say thank you to all and I know we've got some great law enforcement professionals throughout the 4th Congressional District, and many of them are in the Pine Belt. And so I want to thank them for their service, and thank them their families for what they do. It's just, wow, just imagine society without our law enforcement officers and the passionate, committed, courageous, and dedicated individuals that go out there. So that's something that's really been bothering me. And, there's not the people who are defending the police, they're being muted by the mob, the media mob. And we're not really getting our message out. But so if you see a law enforcement officer, thank them for what they do for you and our families. All right, finally, because I definitely want to get to some question and answers. This is a presidential election year. We have 109 days until we get to go elect who we want to be our executive officer, who we want to be our commander in chief of our armed forces. We're one of the few countries that really, get to do that. And it's awesome. And I hope everybody goes out and votes. I mean, just imagine not living in America. Imagine living in a country where the president basically just reelects himself every 4 years, or every 6 years, be it Turkey and Russia or China being controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. We live in the greatest nation on earth, without a doubt. But part of the crazy that I think we're seeing in 2020, and it's been a crazy year, is also the presidential politics. The media, you have to look through the smoke and mirrors. You have to separate the chaff from the wheat. You have to figure out what is real and what's manufactured. The media and the others have been trying to destroy this president for over 3.5 years. They have tried everything. So I'm just trying to put this in the position that a lot of the things that we're seeing and doing, there's no line that they will not cross. But I personally think this president has been good for America. Again, go back to February, go back to January, restoring the cuts to our military. I mean, you've been able to see it firsthand at Camp Shelby, the increased investment, increased training, the Arctic Anvil, where we've got the 4th Brigade Combat Team from Alaska to come train, work up, basically ship their gear through the Panama Canal, came up to Fort Gulfport, ended in Camp Shelby, Mississippi. These are all direct results of us restoring the devastating cuts that were made to our military under the previous administration. Again, renegotiating better and fair trade agreements, just putting America first, trying to secure our border. And listen, I get it. He's an unorthodox president, but he's been very effective. And I have a strange feeling that come November 5th, the day after the election, things are all of a sudden going to be very, very quiet. And finally, before I turn it over to Chad, I just want to ask, Mississippi, just mask up, Mississippi. We're not going to put the genie back in the bottle. We're not going to go back to a shelter in place. I think it would be impossible to ask free men and women to do that. But we can't take another hit to our economy. I mean, we're slowly recovering. The unemployment is slow. The numbers are slowly going back down. But companies are at razor thin margins, are still underwater. We need to open up more and more and more. So I just want to say, follow the simple guidance: mask up, social distance, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and we will come out of this bigger and better. Buy local, shop local, get off Amazon. That money is going to every place but South Mississippi. So with that, Chad, thank you. And I want to thank your membership as well. And I appreciate it. Let's open it up to questions and answers.
Great. Thank you, Congressman, for those remarks. Guys, please log your questions in. I know that you have questions for the Congressman. I'll give you a couple of more minutes to do that while we're waiting on some of those questions to get logged in here. Congressman, I would just say, boy, your remarks were spot on regarding localizing supply chains. We are geared up and ready to go with our economic development team here in Greater Hattiesburg. As you well know, we've led the state of Mississippi in job growth for the last several years. We've been able to track 6,000 new jobs and $1.7 billion in CapEx just in the last 5 years. So, and I'm pleased to say and let our membership know, Todd Jackson and I hosted 2 business prospects just this week in Hattiesburg. So during COVID-19, the economy keeps rolling. Jobs are still being created. Businesses are still looking for expansion opportunities. We also had an opportunity yesterday to host John Rounsaville, Governor Tate Reeves' new executive director of the Mississippi Development Authority. A lot in life, as we all know, is based on relationships. And so we wanted to make sure that we hosted John in Hattiesburg and had a great opportunity to connect with him and get that relationship started off on the right foot. We told him we're going to be avid supporters of his and MDA and bring some leads to us because we have a proven track record here in Hattiesburg. When we get a swing at the plate, we usually hit the ball. And so it's all about getting swings at the plate and having opportunities to succeed. And to your point as well, Congressman, about the first responders, healthcare workers and police officers. I mean, those men and women are really on the front lines during COVID-19 and every day, but boy, especially now. So we are honored to have such a great group of healthcare workers, for example, here in Greater Hattiesburg, 9,000 healthcare employees and great law enforcement officials. So let's look down here at Q&A. Okay, let me get through these here. Okay, here's a question. Lynn Houston's asking, with what's going on in New York City and California, Congressman, do you think there's a chance of getting some additional high-tech companies to come to South Mississippi from some of those areas?
Oh, well, Chad, well, first of all, while we're thinking about it, the hub city, one of the three legs of the stool is the healthcare industry that makes the, Hattiesburg, the Pine Belt, such a wonderful place to live and work, along with Shelby and university. The people, the doctors, the nurses, they have become our frontline heroes during this crisis, and thank them and their families. That's beyond a doubt. They took the burden and handled it extremely well, and we need to continue to thank them. I think Mississippi is doing everything right to attract industries from California, from New York City. We have a great workforce. We got a great economic development team at the state, and especially with ADP. I mean, you have led the state in job creation and unemployment, and people just, the quality of life there is so great. What we got to do is we got to quit being a flyover state. When you get people to come to South Mississippi, and you get them to come to Hattiesburg and catch a baseball game or go eat at one of the fantastic restaurants, either in Midtown, Uptown, or downtown, you're going to have them hooked. And especially when they meet just regular Mississippians, they're possibly going to be part of their workforce, and they see just everything that we have to offer. We're going to run out of room for companies to locate to Hattiesburg. So we just keep doing what we're doing. We got to get out there. We got to follow every lead with passion. And I know y'all don't wait and for the sometimes you're gonna catch that fish whether you got bait on your hook or not, but you're not going to catch it typically if you don't. You have a lot of lines in the water at the same time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Some kind of a fishing analogy. But keep doing what we're doing. I think we're going to see tremendous opportunities coming from companies coming from abroad back to America. They are looking. We might not know they're looking, but they're looking. And I think everything that Mississippi has done through COVID, the crisis, they see strong, solid leadership at the state level, at the federal level, especially at the local level. And we're on their radar.
That's awesome, Congressman. And believe it or not, just literally minutes before we logged on to the Zoom today, I got an email from a company that's based in Europe that already has invested, about $100 million here in Hattiesburg. And they let us know that they just hit their highest production level ever here in Hattiesburg. So again, while certainly there are many companies suffering during COVID-19 and all of the federal assistance has been of paramount importance, there are some companies that are quite frankly prospering right now. So we got to continue to help all of those. All right, let's look at some other questions here. Here's one that I know is near and dear to your heart too on the space side. A question says, I know you're very interested in space. Can we get an update on the Stennis Space Center and how Mississippi can support space advancements?
Yeah, great question. We just wrapped up. I just got back from DC yesterday, and I'll be going back on Sunday. So, through the CJS budgets, we funded NASA. It's pretty good. Last year was the best budget NASA has had in the history of the organization. We got a great administrator there, a former colleague of mine, Jim Bridenstine. He's been to Stennis Space Center. We personally, talk, a lot on what we can do. I think it's just, making sure people know what we have at Stennis. Again, growing up on the Gulf Coast, I can tell you most people, even on the Gulf Coast, they might know it now because we've been driving so much attention toward them with bringing in some new space companies. And we're about to, we're preparing for Artemis 1, which is going to, in 2024, we're hoping to take the first woman and the next man to the moon. And so there seems to be a lot of excitement that, not too long ago, people didn't even know what we did at Stennis Space Center. So it's all about advertising, making sure, we're not a flyover state, getting people to come physically see what we have to offer. And it's not just from the space side, but if you look at it, it's a federal city. Southern Miss has a space out there. They have a mission. There's huge research and development. We're training international military men from all over the world at Stennis Space Center. Did y'all know that? We have Navy SEALs that train on the Pearl River doing live fire exercises. Most people don't know that. Plus, we got, it's almost more of a Navy base than a NASA facility because we have so many Navy personnel out there. We have NOAA, and it's just the list goes on and on. So what we continue to do, like what Chad does for Hattiesburg, and we try to do as your federal delegation, are both our senators and our other members in the House, always trying to, say, hey, have you looked at Stennis? Have you been to Stennis? Why don't you, I think you might like what you see if you check it out. So we're always advocating for our regional assets.
That's awesome, Congressman. And hey, we're all in it together here. And boy, kudos to our leadership, private and public sector leadership here in Greater Hattiesburg, because they often allow us, our economic development team, to work on deals outside of even our 3-county area because they know that it's going to benefit the hub. And it's all going to, so that rising tide lifts all boats. So we have such a great supportive group of private and public leaders here. All right, let's move to another question. And this is a good general question, because Congressman, a lot of times people hear about all the committees and subcommittees, and for the common constituent out there, sometimes we don't know what all of that means and translates into. So here's a question. Could you explain more about how the appropriations process helps our community? In other words, what all actually happens on appropriations?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So just looking back the past 2 weeks, we have marked up 12 subcommittee appropriations bills. Then we went into full subcommittee, and it's long, it's drug out. We're social distancing. We're wearing masks. You may have heard some people were doing proxy voting and things of that nature. Well, most of the appropriators showed up, Democrats and Republicans. In the past, Appropriations Committee was, obviously the committee that controls every dollar of discretionary spending. It's a pretty important committee. Not just to our nation, but to Mississippi. Mississippi's always been fortunate to have appropriators, from Mississippi, and they have seniority as well. And we've benefited tremendously throughout the state for that. And now today, it's almost like having an appropriator is, protecting what we have, because we haven't, some things haven't really been growing the way they should. So it's keeping other members from trying to come in and, pick our fruit and bring it home. It's like, you wouldn't be surprised. Chad, you probably know this from economic development. You're trying to gobble up as much stuff as you can. And if you can, go next door and grab something and bring it over, you will. Well, members of Congress are the same way. And, they see something, they'll try to slide a little piece of legislation in there. So I guess what we do is we fund our government, the discretionary spending on people that, without a doubt, when you talk about spending, I guarantee you there's somebody saying, oh, well, Stephen, our national debt is at so many $1 trillion. What are you doing about that? And it's like, well, we're doing everything we can. We're trying to rein in unnecessary and out of control spending. But I don't get a vote on the non-discretionary spending. The mandatory spending, I do not get a vote on annually. And that's 2/3 of all government spending is on autopilot. It's mandatory, and it's going to take the House, the Senate, both parties to go open up the mandatory spending and really look at it and how we can reform it. Because if you look at the X curves on that spending versus discretionary spending, the spending that I vote on, even though some of it is not how I would spend that money. A lot of it is geared towards national security. A lot of it's towards maintaining our preeminence in space. But to really address our deficit and our debts, we have to look at mandatory spending. And we're continuing. This president and my colleagues are committed to doing that, because a lot of the essential government services that we provide today, we're not going to be able to provide if we don't get our debt under control sooner than later.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great information for us to have. So looking down the list here, okay, this one's kind of related to safe and secure elections. So what's the best plan with all that we're grappling with around the country now, not only COVID-19, but some of the riots and other things that are occurring, through that you referenced during your remarks earlier? What is the best plan for safe and secure elections?
Well, personally, I think that the safest and secure elections is voting in person. I know Secretary of State Michael Watson is doing a great job. You got to remember this whole team of new statewide elected officials. Most of them, they just got on the job, in January, and then we've had crisis after crisis pop up. Some man-made, some natural, but he's definitely addressing that. I think we're going to mask up and go in and vote. I think you got to be careful of the fraud opportunities with massive mail-in opportunities. It's just ripe for fraud. People, you don't have to, show an example. You just know it can be very much manipulated. We got to continue to make sure our men and women who are serving abroad get their absentee ballots on time so they can get them back and be counted. And then, of course, there's going to be a vulnerable population out there that, I think you might be able to, focus a little more on absentee ballots for them, or maybe, again, I'm just spitballing here, but maybe they could have just like Rouse's and Winn-Dixie and Ramey's and all those places had a time set aside for seniors to come in and shop, and feel safer. Maybe we could do that for our voting public, our vulnerable voting public as well. But I believe if you're an American and you love America, you're going to get up and you're going to go vote because it's a right that's been paid for by the blood and sweat of those who've come before us. And those who continue to defend it for us to be able to live in the greatest nation.
Absolutely. We've got a little bit of time left here. We'll take a couple of additional questions. Here's one, of course, related to COVID that we're all grappling with. We've heard Dr. Dobbs and Governor Reeves talk about the rising number of cases in Mississippi and some of the shortages with ICU beds and the number of ICU beds being allocated for COVID. So in your opinion, Congressman, what is the currently Mississippi's biggest challenge facing us regarding COVID?
Everything. When I was talking to the commander of Transcom, and this was kind of early on, this is the second week of March, we were talking about, we need to treat everything that's taking place as an exercise. Because, military is all in the exercise. You're going to, you prepare for war the way you want to fight that war. And they're really good at doing exercises to kind of simulate the battle conditions you may be in, or to expect, how your adversary is going to react. And so, what we're doing with this virus is this is a huge exercise. It showed some vulnerabilities, it showed weaknesses, and the fact that our supply chain and our pharmaceuticals is entirely dependent upon China, one of our great near peer competitors and possibly future adversary. Let's learn these lessons. But we also had a huge struggle with PP&E and the procuring of it. Again, why? Because by the time the world knew that this virus was bad and it was not contained, China had bought up almost the world's supply of PPE that they weren't manufacturing themselves. Again, we can't become overly dependent on others. We need to be doing those things here. But listen, follow the simple guidance. It's like the reason we are seeing a surge in cases, people are not just being smart. Just be unselfish, wear a mask. Look, I got a convenience store. I told her I wasn't going to rat her out. Anyway, I go in there. It's like, where's your mask? And nobody in there has their mask, but I have my mask on. And I think more and more people are going to realize if you're a small business owner, don't be afraid. You're not going to lose business by asking somebody to wear a mask. Because you got to take care of your employees, you got to take care of yourself, and you're literally taking care of your customers by requiring them to mask up. Now, I don't believe in a mask mandate. I don't believe in government mandates. I just believe, just like in World War II, when families went without, they sacrificed, they recycled, they did it for the greater good for their nation. They didn't have to be forced to do it. They volunteered to do it. And same thing here. It's just mask up, Mississippi, and we're going to come out of this. We're going to contain it, but we for small businesses to thrive and survive, we need to be all in on just doing these simple, smart things to contain this virus, so we can again reignite that economy. It's coming, so why keep dragging our feet? Let's just go ahead and work together.
Awesome, Congressman, and I greatly appreciate you talking about masking up. I mean, gosh, guys, it's just a common sense approach. I mean, social distance, use hand sanitizer, mask up. I mean, it just makes sense. And not only for your health, but boy, it makes sense for our economy. If we want to remain open and see our businesses flourish, and then we've got to see these numbers, start dropping. So we are all about masking up here in the Pine Belt. Okay, we have time for one more question, Congressman. I appreciate you taking time not only to join us, but fielding all of the various questions on different topics that are important to folks here in the Pine Belt. This, as you know, Congressman, we're an education-oriented community. We have 26,000 college students within a 30-mile radius. We have great K through 12 school systems in the area. And so education is kind of near and dear to our hearts here. And of course, you realize that all of the schools, all of the school systems are deliberating on how to best reopen K through 12. And is it going to be in person? Is it going to be online, virtually? Is it going to be a hybrid approach? What are we going to do here? So the question is, what's your position on cutting school funding that's been referenced by the president and the education secretary, for those that do not open as desired by the federal government? So again, I know this is a hotly debated issue, and there are a lot of varying opinions out there. But what are your thoughts related to that question on maybe some of the commentary that's come out of the federal government about possibly cutting school funding?
Yeah. Well, we got to do it safely. You got to take care of the kids. You got to take care of the instructors, and then indirectly the people they're going to be interacting with later on. I think we can do it. I think if any school or any administration is thinking about staying shuttered or closed, they're taking the easy way out. I think we can do this. We can do it smartly. We cannot. I mean, to get the economy going, and it's not. Look, it's economy. Parents need their kids in school. The parents need to be able to go back to work. We cannot, this is not a new norm. And, for us to continue to live in fear and shelter, I firmly believe we can do it smartly. We got smart people at the city and the county and the state level. Dr. Dobbs is I've had him on at my teletown hall. I plan on having him on another teletown hall. This is important. Now, I think what the president is doing, I mean, if you're closed and you're not open, then why are we sending taxpayer dollars to, a place that refuses to but I think it's more of a nudge, but as a taxpayer, I'd be like, well, I don't want to pay for something I'm not getting a service for. Right. I mean, that's just nature. But I do think a lot of people, it depends on what news channel you watch. And I encourage people to minimize their daily consumption of news, whether it's conservative news or liberal news. Too much of it is bad for you. Like, do it in moderation. And what they say, Chad, everything in moderation is better for you. So, I think a lot of people are caught up. Again, it's a presidential election year, and I don't want to diminish, the opening the school versus not opening the school. It's like they're trying to, anything this president says, they're going to try to do something opposite of. But we know we need to get the parents out of the house. We need to get the kids into daycare. We need to get them into school. We need to educate them. One thing that I've noticed is we need to bring civics back. You're having these conversations of cutting history, while people are running around trying to erase history right now and trying to cancel culture. I've always, had a great history professor from Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, Dr. Graham's backyard. His name was Dr. Black. And he said those ignorant of the past are doomed to repeat it. Now, that is probably, he was reading, I can't remember who the author was, but he taught us that, so I think it's important but also it's important that knowing that America is the greatest country on earth, we have a lot to be proud of, but it seems like, with the civil unrest and the mob rule, people have kind of forgotten what it means to be a citizen, and that you have responsibilities in the greatest nation on earth. And lastly, I know we're about to move on, but look, you can make your mask whatever you want to make your mask. So you can be fashionable. You can look good in a mask. I'm just saying. So for all you fashionistas out there that think the mask is covering up too much, you can look good.
That's great. I love that Southern Miss mask. That's awesome. Congressman, look, thanks for your remarks today. Thanks for staying on with the Q&A, and more importantly, thanks for your service. Being an elected official, whether it be local, state, or federal, sometimes can, let's be honest, be a thankless job. I mean, there are lots of folks shooting at you and asking questions, and it's just and there's a lot of navigating and, as I say, maneuvering through. And so I appreciate you thinking about the interest of the 4th Congressional District here and what best benefits South Mississippi, obviously what best benefits the nation, but how do we move this great area of the state forward? So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for always being available to us at the ADP, and for all of the business representatives here in the Pine Belt. You are always accessible. So thanks again for your time today. Hope you have a great weekend, sir.
Thanks, Chad. And